Hello guys, it's Tom coming to you again. I had a viewer and subscriber ask me to do a book review on the Wicca Handbook by Eileen, Holland. I got it last night and I've kind of looked over it a little bit. It says that modern Wicca began in England in 1939 when Gerald Gardner was initiated into a traditional British coven by Dorothy Clutterbuck, Old Dorothy as she was called. He later broke the coven's seal of secrecy and published books about the beliefs and practices of British Wiccans because he feared the religion would die out. This began what continues to be a groundswell of people converting to Wicca. Debate currently rages over whether Wicca is a new religion or the oldest of all religions. Some say that Wicca has been practiced continuously in Europe at least since the Ice Age. The site Paleolithic carvings of female figures such as Venus of Willendorf as evidence of goddess worship having been the origin of all religions. No, say others, Wicca is a neo-pagan faith, a 20th century construct. Wicca is actually both, I think, and see no point in debating the issue at all. Modern witches follow the tradition of the earliest ancestors and the shamans and healers of the 21st century. We are priests and priestesses of the great goddess. We practice witchcraft, the ancient art of the sacred magic of the modern world. Certainly, witchcraft has changed over the millennia, and we still have much in common with Neolithic practitioners crouched before a fire, crushing herbs for a healing brew. Methods and tools may be different, but the intent is the same: to help, to heal, to honor the mother in all that we do. It talks about the great goddess, the Wiccan read and harm none, do what you will. And it has a poem, read of the Wicca. Wiccan traditions. It says Wicca is a solitary religion for some of us, something we learn through books, lectures, or on the internet, or develop through personal experience and solitary practice. Some have studied Wicca in groves, study groups, or learning circles. Others grew up with Wiccan families, then chose Wicca for their own path. Many came to Wicca in other traditional ways through formal initiation into a coven that followed a specific tradition. Wiccan traditions include the following: the Gardnerian Wicca, Gerald Gardner's traditional path, which honors Aradia as the lady and Ceranos as the lord. This is a formal hierarchical path with sky-clad worship and degrees of initiation. It focuses on rituals of male and female polarity. Covens have no more than 13 members and are led by a high priestess and a high priest. Gardnerians believe it takes a witch to make a witch and tends to disprove the newer do-it-yourself Wiccans. And then the Alexandrian Wicca came along, a formal structure, neo-Gardnerian tradition, founded by Alex and Maxine Sanders in England in the 1960s. Alexandrian and Gardnerian Wicca are sometimes referred to as classical Wicca. The British Trad Wicca. This is a formal structured tradition that mixes Celtic deities and spirituality with Gardnerian type Wicca. Celtic Wicca. This tradition incorporates Celtic gods and goddesses and spirituality with green witchcraft and fairy magic. Dianic Wicca, named for the goddess Diana. This is a goddess-centered tradition that excludes God and does not require initiations. Although Dianic Wicca is sometimes thought of as a feminist or lesbian path, there are also male Dianic witches. Fairy Wicca. This is an Irish tradition that centers on green witchcraft and fairy magic. The Teutonic Wicca, a Nordic tradition witchcraft. This incorporates deities, symbolisms, and practice from Norse and Germanic cultures. Family traditions. These are the practices and traditions, usually secret, of families who have been witches for generations. And then it says comparative religion, initiations, Wiccan ethics, white magic, Wiccan rites. Wicca rituals are not obligatory. A Wiccan may hold a ceremony whenever he or she feels the need for one. The ritual may be private or public, celebrated alone or with other witches, or performed by a high priest or priestess. The rite may be newly written for the occasion, one handed down in a particular tradition, or something from a book about Wicca. Our rituals include the following: Wiccaning, a ceremony held to welcome a new baby and place her or him under the protection of the goddess. Initiation, and any ceremony held to mark the dedication of a new witch to the goddess and the craft. Hand fasting, a Wiccan marriage ceremony called a hand fasting because the right wrists of the bride and groom are traditionally bound together, symbolizing their union. Jumping the broomstick, an ancient fertility rite, is often part of the ceremony. Some couples have only hand fasting, while others hand fast before or after a civil marriage ceremony. The number of Wiccans taking legal orders entitling them to use the title Reverend make it increasingly possible for a hand fasting to be a legally recognized marriage ceremony. The Great Rite is a sacred sexuality, the union of lance and grail. The god is invoked into the male witch and the goddess into the female. In classical Wicca, this is a formal ceremony that includes the five-fold kiss. The sex act is only symbolic when the rite is performed before the whole coven, actual when celebrated in privacy. In another tradition, the Great Rite is any act of loving sexual intercourse performed within a magic circle as an offering to the goddess. It is a sex magic of the highest kind, using male-female polarity to raise channel power. Gay couples have male and female energy as well, so I can see no reason why lesbian and homosexuals cannot also celebrate the Great Rite. Croning, a ceremony that marks a female witch's change from mother to crone, the final stages of her life. Menarche marks entry into the maiden phase, motherhood, or entering into the mothered phase. The decision to crone may be based on the beginning or end of menopause, on an astrological milestone, on a personal life event like the last child leaving home, or simply because the witch feels the time is right. Death rites, rituals held to mark the passing of witches. Wiccans see life and death as part of the same cycle. Death is merely a transformation of our energies into another form. A Wiccan requiem can thus be both a solemn occasion and a joyous celebration of the witch's life. Then it talks about the Wiccan year, the Sabbath, greater and lesser Sabbaths, craft names, starting in magic, astrology, mythology, meditation, past life work, dream work, confronting your dark side, getting started, divination, altar, sacred space, your book of shadows. Most witches make a grimoire or book of shadows. This is a blank book in which you write down any information you think is interesting or useful to you as a witch. You should begin yours as soon as possible. It can be any sort of book, but will need to be fairly large because you will be writing a lot of things in it. Magical supply shops sell blank book of shadows. Booksellers and art supply stores often carry bound sketchbooks that serve as well as grimoires. And the Book of Shadows is a very powerful thing. The repository of magic. It grows more powerful with the passing of years as you expand it. It must be handwritten. You must always treat it with respect and never let anyone else handle it. A Book of Shadow usually includes spells, rituals, prayers, magical correspondences, information on magic itself. It may also have incantations, pictures or sketches, charts like moon and tribe tables, symbols, goddess pages, coven section, records of magical workings and experience, invocations. Right here it says, my grimoire, my book of shadows was a big blank record book, the kind governments used before computers. My father gave it to me thinking I might want to use it for my diary. I had that book for years. I knew it should be used for something special, but I was unable to decide what that special purpose might be. I thought it could be a dream book and actually wrote 1 or 2 dreams in it. Then I decided that it wasn't right and tore the dream pages out. The book moved with me from apartment to apartment, back and forth across the United States until I finally came to a Wicca and knew for certain why I had been saving it. I drew a pentacle on its cover, began my book of shadows. I divided my book of shadows into 3 sections: correspondence, material, spells and incantations. And then the next section goes to the witch's tools, how to consecrate, consecrations, the athame, a sword, wand, pentacle, the chalice, the cauldron, the censer, the broomstick, bows, bell, necklace, cord, scourge, Celtic tools, the elements of earth, air, fire, water, other element systems, elementals, casting spells, the magic circle, magic major and minor, spell and correspondence, directing spells, spells and puppets, time and spells, distance and spell work, materials, herbs, candles, incense, statues, icons, pictures, posters, formal magic, intention, preparation, cast the circle, raise the power, cast the spell, close the circle, practical magic, making invocations, Egyptian invocations, writing spells, creating spells, spell to find a husband, spell to attract the attention of the one you desire, closing spells, language, inspiration, sources. Part 2 is the craft. Goes into the introduction, creativity, correspondence for creativity, fertility charms, Hathor, spell to get pregnant, correspondence for fertility, health and healing, healing yourself, healing others, spells for healing, correspondences for healing, law and justice, blue justice spell, and it breaks it down to 2 parts. Correspondences for legal spells, love spells, blessing of union, marriage, magic, correspondences for magic itself, planets, alchemy, black magic, blessing, to bless, calling spirits, cat magic, charms, charms against spells, charms against lunar magic, cleansing bad vibes, finding treasures, invincibility, opening what is shut, purification, secrecy, swifter than greyhounds and fleeter than light, trance magic, work for small children, wind spells, money and business, correspondence for financial spells, protection spells, protecting your home, protecting yourself, psychic protection, spells for protection, house blessing spell, banishment spells, binding, vexation boxes, warning spell, correspondences for protection, bad dreams, fear, psychic vampirism, sorcery, psychic work, astral projection, correspondences for astral projection, correspondences for psychic work, sex magic, sexual healing, aphrodisiacs, correspondences for sex magic, wisdom. Part 3 is correspondences, and it goes into an introduction of that. The cardinal points, north, south, east, and west. The Lord of the Watchtowers, the heavenly bodies, the moon phases, magic square for each of the planets, animal kingdom, mammals, land mammals, correspondences for these as what they are. Let's see. Sea mammals, marine life, reptiles, insects, birds, fantastic beast, the griffin, the leviathan, the phoenix, the sphinx, colors, metals, rocks and gemstones, correspondences for rocks and gemstones, fossil, I'm just kind of trying to do a hurry and get through part of this. I'm already 17 minutes into it. I apologize, everyone. And then letters. Vowels are sacred to Carmenta, the Fates, the goddess, and the white goddess. And it goes through the alphabet. Numbers. And then when you have the glossary. If anybody has any questions about the book that I didn't cover, please leave me a message, or I think my email's on there. If not, it's shamanicdreamer1976 at gmail.com. And I'll do what I can to answer any questions you may have. I thank my subscriber for recommending this book. I think it's going to be a very interesting one once I get a chance to get to read into it more. And I believe it goes well with the Eileen, the Llewellyn's book of correspondence that I did. I'm looking forward to reading it. It's forward by Raymond Buckland, author of Buckland's Complete Book of Witchcraft. I have looked at that one, and it is a very good book. And then this Wicca Handbook by Eileen, Holland. Very interesting. I think it's going to be a good book. Thank you. Blessings.